Welcome back, Sports Grid here at G2E, sitting here with Mark Hicks, the Managing Director of Enforcement for the NCAA. Mark, you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself and why you're here?
Thanks for having me. I've been at the NCAA for a little over 18 years now, in a variety of different regulatory capacities. Started as a law clerk. Legal was my second career. I was a football coach for many years prior to going into legal and then ended up at the NCAA. Kind of in a million years, never planned to be at the NCAA, but one thing led to another. It just kind of happened, and it's been a fantastic journey. But in my current role, I do a lot of external relations for our regulatory folks. We have focuses in different sports, but also subject matters, and one of those is sports betting. And so it's a big focus for the NCAA. It's a big focus for our department. And even though I'm in enforcement, it really is it's a broader role that really involves a number of people in departments across the NCAA.
Mark, I think one of the fascinating things about the NCAA is the timeline pre-PASPA repeal, early and during and after PASPA repeal until now, and how the organization has evolved its thinking as it pertains to gaming.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating journey, maybe. You know, like college athletics is over 100 years. It's now part of the American fabric, right? It's part of our social culture. It's obviously much larger, and it continues to evolve. It really kind of goes back to, there have been, over the last 50 years, about 15 major sports betting related scandals, if you will, or issues with point shaving, match fixing. There's a long history there in college athletics, and what has come out of that was really an aversion to anything sports betting. Even in the United States, where sports betting wasn't legalized yet, the NCAA and its membership was really, really hands-off. Contrast that with legalized sports betting, 2018, repeal of PASPA. It was really important for the NCAA as a membership organization to evolve with that time. And you saw a lot of regulations that were previously in place be removed. And then, you know, you cross-reference that with the notion that college athletics is still higher ed. There is an education component to it. We often, I think as a public, look at college athletics, the big games, the big bowl games, the championships is almost like a professional atmosphere. But the reality is there's 1,100 schools, there's 500,000 student athletes, and there's still students. And so there's always this pull and this tethering to higher ed. And so it's just a different culture than just professional sports. So when you combine the long-time aversion to sports betting, some of the scandals, and the role of higher ed in our community, it's like kind of keeps the debate of where the association should be when it comes to sports betting. And that's alive and well. And so what we're seeing now, so you asked, is a real deep engagement and conversation around what the role of the association is around sports betting. We've seen some of our penalty guidelines around violations revised in the last calendar year. Certainly a lot of relationships that allow us to work closer in concert on a regulatory capacity with the sports books. They're often engaged in reporting things to the national governing body. So we're talking and we're working together and we're communicating. And then lastly, we're looking at our rules, and are our rules in the right place? And the membership has an opportunity here to have a really good conversation to say, do we need prohibition on all sports betting? Should it be a prohibition on just college sports betting? Is it integrity focused? Is it student athlete welfare focused? So all of those dynamics are happening right now. We all know the escalation of sports betting as an industry in the United States since 2018 is just off the charts, right? And it's really important for our schools to, be aware of that, modernize themselves, and it's here. They got to live with it, right?
What kind of support and capabilities, if you will, or tools do you give to schools to help them in that effort?
So first of all, it starts with education. We do education materials, online courses, or not really courses, but like modules, right? We're constantly trying to update materials that they can share with student athletes, and not just student athletes, but you're talking about officials, the employees of the athletic department, the coaches, our coaches association. So that's part of it. We also work with Epic Global Solutions to do lived experience training. They're a phenomenal group that really comes in and talks to the young people through the position of what it's like to be someone who's struggled with gambling challenges. We work with Signify. Signify is a company out of the UK that works with other sports leagues across the globe in identifying social media harassment. It's also important for people to understand that with 1,100 colleges and universities, we're not talking about a league of 32. And of those 1,100 colleges, there's a bunch of teams. And again, 500,000 student athletes. So it's not the NCAA on its own that's going to help or fix all this. And each school has their own education work, their own initiatives. The conferences play a real big part. The conferences often partner with other entities and vendors to help on their education. So it really is a collaborative, organic way of trying to reach all these people, which is probably somewhere close to 1 million people when you talk about staff and student athletes and officials in all those sports.
Let's talk about student athlete well-being.
Yep.
Because that's what the NCAA is about, building up student athletes. What have you guys seen that I think has given you optimism that gaming can coexist with the student athlete ecosystem? And then what are some concerns or concerning things that you've seen as well?
That's a great question. I think it's undisputed that from a fan engagement standpoint, from kind of the business side, that sports betting creates a lot of dialogue and interest around sports. From the harm side, though, which in the area that I'm working in, the harassment that we see is really, really prevalent. It's why we hired Signify. It was a pilot project, almost like a study that had benefits. So real time, in a moment benefits. So not just a study for us to look at data, but a ways to address issues of harassment right now. We'll have a big study coming out. The results of the Signify study will come out this week on Thursday. But what we know is just in a bite-sized, smaller sample size around March Madness, men's and women's sports, or men's and women's tournament, that there's like 50,000 abusive messages that were intercepted by Signify or identified. And then we work with a social media company, and I don't think that often gets a lot of attention. And when I say work with them, Signify is providing that data to the social media company saying, you need to do something about this. And those messages are being removed. So oftentimes in this industry, the betting industry, we're focused on things like prop bets and all that. But there's a lot more that's going into it than just focused on a policy perspective from the NCAA. So we work with Signify to do that. And in some cases, it's super violent. We may have to get law enforcement involved. And luckily that's a small number. But the amount of abuse that's directed at young people who are playing games is actually very tragic, and it has to have a toll on those that are playing the game. Like just the constant, repetitive, hammering them. And again, this stuff is violent, it's racist, it's misogynistic, it's homophobic, death threats.
Certainly no place for behavior like that. It's all of our responsibility to protect this industry and its positive forward advancement, as best we can. And I think behavior like that undermines, the good efforts that are being done to grow the game.
Yeah.
So, Sports Grid here at G2E. I'm Adam Kaplan. This is Mark Hicks, Director of Enforcement from the NCAA. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the Sports Grid studio here on the exhibit floor at G2E at the Venetian Expo Center here in Las Vegas 2024. We are sitting down with Elliott Rapoport, the founder of Birch's Health. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me, Gabby, and the rest of the Sports Grid team.
Of course. How's the show going so far?
It's busy. You know, this is my first G2A. I'm incredibly excited about spending my time on the expo floor. Lots of flashing lights, but I'm finding myself distracted in between meetings, but making it work, which is great.
First G2E.
Yeah, we're having fun.
It's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to see and a lot to do.
Lots of good conversations, which we're really happy about.
Let's get started on who you are, where you're from, and how you found yourself in this role that you're currently in.
Of course. So I'm the founder of Birch's Health, and we're a national provider of virtual treatment, so teletherapy for individuals who are struggling with their gambling and their sports betting. And the focus here, more than anything else, coming from my background, really in healthcare operations across the U.S., was to ensure that individuals who need treatment, they can get access to it. And so we're so fortunate to work, on one hand, with a significant amount of partners across states, operators, professional leagues, and others in the industry. But also, too, you know, we're having a lot of good conversations at G2E, which is what we're quite pleased about.
Why did you come to G2E? What do you plan on taking away from it?
I think that the industry right now is very focused on increasing access to responsible gaming resources, as well as, of course, increasing awareness of necessary treatment options. And so what we've found walking around the expo and in lots of our conversations is that, you know, even over the past 2 years of starting this company and scaling it nationally, our focus right now is on currently engaging with these stakeholders to continue the conversations and really integrating directly as best we can. We're here to help, and our focus is making sure that treatment is accessible to all and to those who need it.
And are you starting to partner with different sports leagues as well as businesses within the gambling space?
We are. So we have a significant roster of professional leagues, operators, states, all of whom we're in direct conversation with and actively partnered with. A couple of big announcements coming soon. We can't tease any, but we're very excited, especially as we look to next year in March, which is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. But thus far, you know, we've been really thrilled with the reception from the industry.
Absolutely. And where do you find Birch's Health positioned as gambling and sports betting becomes much more accessible on a handheld device or at home?
It's a great question. And so what we find is truly best in class, which we're already integrating with some of our partners actively right now, is a direct integration into treatment. And so our focus in making sure that these resources are available, we want to make sure that no longer are RG resources, access to treatment, hidden away, you know, deep within an app or on a landing page. We want to be front and center. Not everyone needs these resources, but for the players who do, we want to be there to help.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Can you walk us through the birth of Birch's Health? You know, what it's gone through over the last 2 years to become what it is, and then maybe some focuses that you guys are narrowing in on over the next 1 to 3 years.
So we originally started now almost 2 years ago in a single state. And since then, we've scaled to actively offer treatment by the end of the year in 48 states, working with triple-digit clinical providers across the entirety of the U.S. And it's a really beautiful model because, as well as increasing access to care through virtual teletherapy, we're also removing financial blockers to care by ensuring that players who need treatment can use their insurance for these type of resources. And so looking ahead and thinking about what does 2025 hold for us, we're going to be making a couple big splashes with leagues and operators and thinking about how do we integrate even more directly, which we're thrilled to do. But more than that, as the industry, I think, continues to focus on RG and on increasing access to treatment, we want to be right there, kind of holding the flag for a lot of these conversations with partners across the entirety of the industry.
Absolutely. Can you give any insight on if we talk about problem gambling, right? And immediately you think about dollar amount. You're spending too much, way beyond your means, or too often. How about an emotional reaction to to gambling, if that's, on premise, on a casino floor, or that's sports gambling, what that looks like. There's multiple avenues to go here, right? It's not always attached to financial situations.
Of course. And so, I think, and I always defer to our clinical leadership team here, we're really fortunate to partner nationally with best-in-class clinical leaders. But, for individuals who are struggling with their gambling and sports betting, who are struggling with gambling disorder, the focus here is on recognizing some of these at-risk behaviors and then getting them in front of a clinician who's actually specialized and has been trained in treating gambling disorder as quickly as possible. And we think that's the gold standard of care, and that's what we're pushing for, and that's where we hope the industry will come and meet us over the next 1 to 3 years.
And what struck your passion for this?
Of course, and so my personal background is in healthcare, as I said, running operations across a large company nationally. But I have a friend who's been in and out of treatment, and so I've been through the incumbent treatment models. And what we realized is that there were blockers for convenience and then also for finances. And so we wanted to remove both of those, and I think thus far we're making great progress on doing so. Virtual therapy from the comfort, let's say, of your home, and then, of course, ensuring that this does not cost you an onerous amount is our focus.
While we have you, is there anything else you'd like to add, either about yourself, about your experience at G2E, or any of your experiences in the gaming industry?
Of course. So I think thus far, a lot of our work has been with regulators, with leagues, with operators, with some of the large media affiliates too. What we've found is that as these conversations continue, people are really excited about what we're doing, and so we're going to channel that passion, and over the next year, we're really going to scale it to make sure that these resources are available to all.
We have Elliott Rapoport, the founder of Birch's Health, with us in the Sports Grid studio on the exposition floor of G2E 2024. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to day 3 in the Sports Grid studio at G2E 2024. We are sitting down with Gerard Crosby of Konami Gaming, the Chief Games Product Officer. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
How was G2E for you this year? It's going okay?
Yeah, it's going great. A lot of people are coming through. I wouldn't say I don't know if we have record numbers or not, but the stands have been very busy.
Sure.
And a lot of positive reviews of our games, our products.
Let's go right into that. Any new product that you want to touch on that's brand new for Konami Gaming?
Yeah, sure. So we've got 3 games that we're sort of highlighting this year. One is Bingo Frenzy, which is named Bingo Frenzy, so it's got a bingo style feature in it, a 5x5 hold and spin matrix, and it's got a dobber as a character, and he dobs and gets you big bingo wins and things like that. We've launched that. It's out on the floor of the casinos at the moment.
Awesome.
It's been going really well. And then we've got a game called Kapow Pig. That's come out of our Australian studio. So that will be launching shortly. And that's another hold and spin feature. And it's got a character of the pig with a yellow cake that flies around, and what's a feature. And the other one is called What the Duck.
I love it.
Yeah, called What's the Duck. So it's got his duck character, and he does all these crazy animations and things like that. He awards a bunch of bonus features. So they're the 3 that we're really focusing on this year.
Awesome, and positive reviews thus far.
Oh yeah, it's been good.
Great news.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you for a little bit. Tell us who you are, how you got into the gaming industry, what led you to the position that you're in now, and maybe why do you stay in the gaming industry?
Oh, good question. Well, I started out, went to university, got a maths degree, and then someone mentioned, hey, there's a slot manufacturer down the road. They hire manufacturers, and I joined IGT, many years ago, then decided to come over to Konami about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Been there for quite some time and just sort of grown off through the ranks and to the position I'm at now. And yeah, it's a great industry. It's a competitive industry.
Sure.
You know, we make video games, essentially. That's what we do.
For adults.
For adults,
Yeah.
exactly. No, I just enjoy the process of making, plenty of industries where you make stuff, but, it's for corporate level. This is games for adults. I enjoy making them.
You're providing entertainment.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And it's probably a little more entertaining to make than most other industries.
And that's kind of the core of Konami. So Konami's, their main division is digital entertainment. They're responsible for brands like Metal Gear Solid, eFootball, Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, all those kinds of things. So it's kind of inbuilt in the company to really focus on the entertainment.
For sure. And what do you do as Chief Product of Games Officer? What does that entail?
Just overseeing a bunch of our development teams. They're the guys that do all they're the ones with the brains and make all the stuff, and just try and keep them all working well together.
Sure.
Hopefully I'm achieving that.
Are there any trends in slot manufacturing in particular that you've seen over the last 1 to 2 years that you guys have kind of had to, ebb and flow with?
Yeah, it does. It ebbs and flows. There's some core mechanics in games like hold and spin, which I mentioned before. That's obviously a popular one. They call it a 3-pot system. So we have these 3 different features you can trigger randomly on the games that are very popular, and bonus prizes, values on the symbols themselves, which traditionally, they've always been kings, queens, and themed up pictures. So they're the kind of the trends at the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah. And big screens, and you name it. A lot of marketing around machines.
I was going to say that the screens seem to be growing year after year. And I do notice, even driving down the road, that you see marketing for slot machines in different games now.
Yeah.
Incredible.
If you, look at the stands here, and a small machine up to 6 foot high, or 6 meter high almost, you could say. Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Let's go into iGaming a little bit. And Konami's very involved. So can you touch on that and maybe guide us through where you are now and where Konami plans to be?
Yeah, well, our strategy at the moment is we're a content provider. So we partner with many of the leading operators out there. So that's our business at the moment. So we're trying to get it more into omni-channel. So we'll release, for example, Kapow Pig. We're going to be launching that online at the same time for various partners. And yeah, that's where we're at on iGaming at the moment.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Thank you so much for taking time. I know this week can be very, very busy and exhausting. So thank you so much for spending some time with us at Sports Grid.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. And that is Gerard Crosby of Konami Gaming.